All right, what I want you to do now is to go to your terminal. Are you there? Hello.
Yeah.
All right, I want you
Hello.
to type CD. You know where you have your development folder. It should be used to this. Where you have your development folder. So on your terminal, you type CD space and then drag that development folder into your terminal. Or better still, you can even go in your development folder and then where you have your DAT tutorials. That's where we want to be. DAT tutorials. You should drag that DAT tutorials on your terminal. Then you can press enter. So if you are there, let me know. Hello.
Hello.
Are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
How about Mr. Olalikon and Ms. Toby? Oh, Ms. Toby, I told you can just continue with your that part. So you have to solve your own issue after the session. Please remind me, so it will not be like
Okay.
this class. I'll be last class.
Yeah.
I went to find okay.
Okay. No problem.
All right. So Mr. Olalikon, have you done that?
Yes, I have.
All right. So you can just type code CODE space and dots, and you can press enter. So it will spin up Visual Studio Code, and then you should be in your that tutorials directory. So if you've done that, I'll share my screen now. So can you see my screen? Hello.
Yes, I can
Yes, I
see
can
it.
see your screen.
All right. You should have Visual Studio Code opened right now already. Do you?
Yes.
All right. So we can continue. So today we will be talking about control flow. So I want you to I clicked on this look at your left pane. You see Explorer. To open your Explorer, then if you're in your data tutorials folder, click on this icon to create a new file. And let's name it control_flow.dat and press enter.
Sorry, I thought you said you are going to dwell a little on what we did last week.
No, yeah, I didn't mean that I'll go back. What I was saying is that what we are going to do today, we have something to do with what we did last time. So I'll just keep touch on it a little bit. I'll touch on what we did last class, not that I'll go back. You get. It's just that when we are doing something today, because we are going to use what we learned last class, we're going to use it today. So I'll just touch on it a little bit. All right.
Noted.
All right. So now, have you done that? Create a new file called controlflow.dat. So if you've done that, we can continue. The first one we'll be talking about is if, else, and then else if statements. Give me a moment. Yeah. So like I've mentioned, we have to write our code in our main function, void main. Let's create a variable var num1 is equals to, let's see, 7, and num2, let's see, 10. All right. Now, we want to talk about if statements first, the if statement. So this is the syntax for the if statement. Let's say if num1 is greater than num2, print $ num1 is greater than $num2. All right. In the last class, we talked about this operator, relational operator, to check, because this code right here, num1 greater than num2, is an expression. It will evaluate to something. So in that, DART, in that, if you're using the if statement, it has to, what has to be inside of it has to be an expression that evaluates to a Boolean. It has to evaluate to either true or false. In the last class, I mentioned that if you are doing this kind of relational operation, this is going to evaluate to either true or false. So here we are checking if num1 is greater than num2. So num1 is what? Is 7. Num2 is 10. So we are checking if num1 is greater than num2, then print, I mentioned this is string interpolation. There isn't $sign to get the value of num1. So we will print 7 is greater than 10. That is if this expression is true. So you get.
Sorry, excuse me.
Okay, your question.
What happens? Okay, what happens when you don't put the $sign?
Like I mentioned in the previous classes, if I don't use the $sign, it's not this. It's just going to print out num1 as it is, like a string. So when I said string interpolation, it will evaluate what this value is. So it's going to get us what num1 is. It's going to get us the value of 7. So here, just have it in mind that here it will change to 7 because it's evaluating this this num1. So if we don't have the $sign, it's just going to print out the string num1 as it is. You get. Like I've mentioned too, you can use your curly braces inside. It's still the same thing. But I said if you only have one value, like this num1, then you don't need the curly braces. But if you have something like num1 dot something or num1 plus, let's say 10, then you have to put it inside the curly braces. You get. Right now, we don't need it. So now, this expression, and can someone tell me what this one will evaluate to? Num1 greater than num2. Someone, anybody?
False, I think.
False.
False.
Yeah, it will be false because 7 is not greater than 10. So this is false. So because this expression is false, it will not run this statement. It will not run this print. Here you get. This expression has to be true. If this expression is false, it will not run this statement. Let's try it. Let's run it. That run control no.dat. Let's give it a see. He's not giving us anything. He's not printing anything. Why? Because this expression is false. So if you had said that num1 less than num2, So let's run this. Casey is printing it now. 7 is lesser than 10. She gets. This is what we call control flow. It's checking this block. It's checking this statement. If this statement is true, then it will run. If this expression is true, then it will run this statement. But if it is false, it will just ignore. It will ignore this block. Then to keep the flow of execution. To just keep executing. It will not run this statement. So this expression has to be true before it can run the block. That's for if statements. So now we have else. This is what will happen if this expression is not true. For instance, let's go back to when we said num1 greater. And let's use the else statement here. Else let's say num1 is lesser than num2. So you can see here we are checking if num1, hold on. Here we're checking if num1 is greater than num2. And like we've said, it is false because num1 is 7, num2 is 10. So num1 is less than num2, but we're checking if num1 is greater than num2. So here is false. It checks here is false. It doesn't run this expression. It doesn't run this statement. It doesn't enter this block. It checks the next block. So we are saying else. That is else. If this expression is false, we are going to run this one. It's going to run this statement here. So if we run this, it checks here. Oh, this is false. So I'm not running this, please. It checks here else. Then I'm going to run this one. So let's run it. So you can see 7 is lesser than 10. It's running this statement. This print statement is coming from here. Because here is false, it's coming from here. So if we've talked about else, and then the next one is else if. Else if. What we use else if for? Let's see. Hold on. Let me think of an example. All right. So let's check else if no, sorry. No, you can type along. Num1 equals to num2 print num1 and num2 are equal. Then else print so if we talked about if and we talked about else. So when we said if, the statement, the expression has to evaluate to true before you can run the block. This is a block. Hold on. From here, from this opening curly braces, this one to this one, this is a block. So anything within the block, the opening and closing curly braces, is a block. So this one is another block of code, and this is the closing block. And like this too, this one is another block, closing block. So those are the blocks of code we have in this control flow. So we are saying if num1 is greater than num2, it should enter inside this block. It should run this one. So hold on. So it's like this. I'm coming. So we are checking if num1 is greater than num2, enter this one. If it's not, that is when we are using the else if. We're using the else if, enter this one. The else if, we are checking another expression. The else if is used to check another expression. So if you want to check for another expression, for instance, okay, I'm coming, let me just finish this one. Is to enter another expression, to check another expression. So if he checks this one too, the else if statement, if this one too is false, if the else if statement is false, then it will enter the last block, which is the else block. The else block is like a catch-all block. The else block is for anything that happens, like doesn't concern it if it's true or false, as long as the if statement, the block, the code inside the if statement block isn't running. The one in the else if is not running, so it will default. It's like a default. So if it does not enter this one, it doesn't enter this one, it definitely enter the else block. That's why we have the else block. It's like a catch-all block. So it checks if num1 is greater than num2, so it is false. It doesn't enter here. Then it checks if num1, like I said in the last class, this one here is not 1 equals to sign, it's 2. It's because of the way I set my own VS Code. So it is 2 equals to sign here. So you have to use 2. If you are using 1, like I mentioned in the last class, 1 is for assignments like this. Hold on. 1 is for assignment like this. 1 equals to sign is to assign a value to a variable, to an identifier. This is 1 equals to sign. This is 2. Hold on. So you can see it's 2, but because of the way I set my own, so it doesn't give space here. So it's going to check here. If this one is false, it doesn't run this block. Checks here. If this one is true, then it runs the block and it exits out. It doesn't run anything else. I want to point that out. If it checks here and this one is true, it enters this block. It doesn't run anything else. It doesn't run this else part. But if it is false, then it doesn't enter this block. And it checks the last one. Else is a catch-all block. It just is just to do something when it doesn't meet this expression. This expression doesn't evaluate to true. This one doesn't evaluate to true. Then it runs this one. It runs this else block. So if we run this now, I want you to just use your eye to follow this. Check which block is it going to run. You can give me your answer. Hello?
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right.
I'm with you.
So you can use your eye to follow this. Check this if statements. So which block do you think it is going to run? Which block will it enter? So we are checking if num1 is greater than num2. So use your eye to follow this. Which one is it going to run? This block, or the else if block, or this one, the else block? Which one is it going to run?
It's going to run the else if.
No, that is wrong. And I'll tell you why. In the else if block, we are checking if num1 is equal to num2. So again, num1 is 7, num2 is 10. Are they equal?
No.
So, so obviously this is going to evaluate to false. Okay, you get it now. So now it is evaluating to false. It's not going to enter this block. It's going to enter the default block. See, it's going to enter this default block. So if we run this, it's going to print 7 is lesser than 10, like we wanted here. It's going to run this else block. And also, if we had said another else if is here, else if num1 is less than num2. Hold on. How am I typing rubbish to be like this? All right. So if you check this one now, which block do you think is going to run? Is it this one? Okay. to make this easier. This one is for the is for this block. This one is for this block. For this block.
Sorry, I can't really see your cursor.
Hold on. All right. Oh, shit. I'm sorry about that. I don't know if I can go back again. Yeah, this one is one block, right? You can see. This one is another block from here to here. Another block from here to here. Then from here to here. So if you can follow this, which one do you think is going to run? So let me go back again. I said it will check this one, check this expression. If it is true, it's going to run this one. Then it will not run anything else. But if it is false, it goes to the next one, which is else if, checks. If this is true, then it's going to enter here. It's not going to run anything else. But if it is false, then it doesn't enter this block. Then it goes here, checks again. This is another expression. Checks. If this is true, it's going to print, it's going to run this block. But if it is not, then it falls to the default block. So if you can,
okay,
so if you can follow this, if you can follow this, just use your eye to just check which block do you think is going to run.
Okay, it's going to run the else if num1 is less than num2.
Exactly.
Print.
Exactly. So it's going to run this block. This one is going to run the block. Anything inside this block, this is where it's going to run. So because it's checking if else if num1 is less than num2. So this is this expression is going to evaluate to true, because obviously num1 is 7, num2 is 10, and we are checking if num1 is less than num2. So you can get now. That's why it's going to run this block. It checks here, num1 is greater than num2, false, it doesn't enter. Checks here, num1 is equal to num2, false, it doesn't enter. Checks here, num1 is less than num2, yeah, this is true. It enters, doesn't even bother running anything else again. Doesn't run this block again. It exits out. So if we had said, num1 is 10, num2 is 10, and if we print this, you see 10 and 10 are equal. So it's running this one. So you can see, because this expression here is evaluating to true. Num1 is now 10, num2 is now 10, and we are checking if num1 and num2 are equal. Print num1 and num2 are equal, as you can see in my terminal. Hold on. Yeah, as you can see in my terminal. So this is what we use if statements for. In the last class, you remember I was talking about less than, greater than, equal to, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, not equal to, and then we talked about the is. This was what we did in the last session. So this is where it is useful. This is, I told you in the last class that we are going to use it in the next class. So this is where it is useful, because we know if you use all these relational operators, what you are using it for is going to evaluate to either to Boolean, which is either true or false. And in your if statement, the if conditional expects an expression that evaluates to true or false. So again, here we cannot say if num1. Here you can see it won't allow us, because num1 is an integer. It's an integer, it's not of type bool. It has to evaluate to true or false. If you had said num1 here is true, it will allow us. You can see it will allow us here, but it's not allowing us here because you are saying if true is greater than 10. It doesn't make sense. Here it's like you are saying true is less than 10. I mean less than 10. So you can see it doesn't make sense here. True is a Boolean, 10 is an integer. So can you compare Boolean and integer. It's not possible. So that's why we're having the error here. So that's what I'm saying, that here in your if statement, expect an evaluation, expect an expression that evaluates to a Boolean, which is either true or false. It doesn't expect anything else. So if we go back and say this is 10. So now it won't allow us because num1 is an integer now. So what we did here was we were checking if num1 is greater than num2. So if you can follow now, you get used to it, don't worry. If it's not clear now, you get used to it because you get to use it more often. So here, let me kind of go back so you can just cement the knowledge a little bit. So I said your if statement expects an expression that evaluates to true or false, that evaluates to a Boolean. So this is an expression here. So it's expecting an expression that evaluates to true or false. And then it checks if, just kind of think about it like English. They're checking if num1 is greater than num2. Then print this one. Then run this code. But you're now checking again. Else if num1 is equal to num2, then print this one. Run this block of code. You're now checking now. Else if num1 is less than num2. Now run this code. And now checking, okay, if the expression doesn't meet any of these expressions, then we can run the default one, which is this. Okay, see. So if you have any question, you can ask now.
Sorry, I have a question.
All right.
Okay, so writing the first line of code on my own, it's returning an error message.
What was it saying?
So, okay, it's saying I should debug or something.
What was the error?
There is no really error message. It's just saying that, okay, build error exists in your project, debug anyway. Visual Studio Code, debug anyway or show.
If you check your VS Code, is there any line that is there any place that is giving you like a red squiggly line, like this? Hold on.
No.
Like this red squiggly line?
No.
Are you sure? So
Yes.
I told you, you can use your terminal to run it first. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm even running on terminal.
Can you kind of copy the error message and paste it on the chat box? Let me see.
Error message really.
Just copy it and paste it on the chat box.
I can't really find any error message.
They said it was giving you an error.
Yes, it was just saying that I should debug.
Try to run it again on your terminal. Either you typed something wrong.
Okay, let's move on.
No. You it might be informational because it might be here. You might have an error here because let me take this away first. So you can see this is one block here. This is another block here. You can see maybe it's here that I having a mistake. Another block. See. So you can see. So maybe you mistyped here. Maybe you place the block where you are not supposed to place. So you see, if you kind of separate it, you should have something like this. Do you?
I think I will find a way around it.
So it's not giving you any error.
At all.
But it's not just running.
Yes.
Run Flutter Doctor on your terminal. So while that is running, I think can continue.
So I also have a question.
All right.
Please, I want to ask the less than or equals to operator. Is it because of your team is displaying that way on
Yeah. I said
your
it. I said it in the last class. It's something we call ligature. I set my own ligatures, but you don't have it. Your own should just be like this. If you're having two equals to sign, your own will be like this, but without the space.
okay?
Okay, see.
Okay, yeah.
Even if I have I'm not equal to, your own should be like this. Okay, see.
Okay.
But without the
Yeah.
space. So it's because of the way I set my own.
Okay.
Even your
Okay.
less than and greater than or something, less than or equal to should be like this. I'll be greater than or equal to. So that was the way it was my own setting.
Okay.
So Mr. Olalekan, what's up?
Yeah, my Flutter Doctor is fine.
Then it's your code that is giving you trouble. Can you share your screen? Let me just see. You have to debug this because debugging is also part of your job as a developer. You have to know where the problem is coming from. So at your early stage, if you can learn how to find bugs and debug, it will be better. So it will be easier for you to save you some pain in the long run. So if you can share your screen.
You have to stop sharing for me to share.
Oh, you can't share right now. Let me see. Okay, hold on. All right, can you share now?
Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Hold on. Done. I can't see.
I think you should go up just on top of your screen, click on the viewing options.
So I didn't get. I should click on the what? Okay.
Not you, I'm talking to them.
What did you say?
Like just on top of your screen, below your camera, click on the viewing options and you switch it to your screen.
On the what? Click on the what?
View options above, just below you are viewing so that you can change the option to view the screen. Just below your camera, just below your webcam, you see view options. Click on it and switch to a phone.
I'm not seeing anything like that. But are you sharing your screen now? Can anyone else see his screen?
Yes, I can see his screen. Yes. Yeah, I can see his screen, though he has stopped now. Sure.
Okay. What about now? I'm trying to redo it. Sorry, can you see it now?
Hold on. All right. So what was the error it's giving you?
Okay, let me delete this.
You don't need to delete it. Just press Ctrl Z. Ctrl Z. Let me see. Oh.
Okay. So
Where is this? Oh, cancel it. If you can check your left pane, you can see there's an error is in your operators.dat. Click on it. So go to, if you check your right pane, you see a map. Right, you're right. Yeah, see this map. You can drag it to where, to where you can see we have errors here. So just comment it out. Comment both of them out. At the front of that, I'll be at the back of that print statement, and just
okay.
2 forward slashes. I'll be backward slashes. Yeah, and then the second one too. So it's because we're having issues with this file. You can't run that one. So go back to your control. That's that. You can delete this one that you have control flow. Yeah, and delete this one. because it doesn't have the dots, that extension. Yeah, move to the left. So in your control flow, you should be able to run it now. You can press Ctrl Z to go back to where what you've typed before. Just hitting Ctrl Z, Ctrl Z. You have to click on
No
the
going
file.
on.
Click on the file. Yeah, Ctrl Z. Ctrl Z, yeah, to go back to what you've typed before. Then you can just
That
continue.
is why I stopped.
All right. So this is, you can see the error message. You have to put something in your print statement. There's nothing in your print statement now. And then you have to terminate it with the semicolon after.
Yes.
All right. So you can stop sharing your screen now.
Thank you. Sorry, don't let us forget. We need to jump back again. There's the 1 minute to end.
We need to do it.
I mean the Zoom is showing less than 1 minute to end, so that we can rejoin the meeting back.
All right, don't worry about that. Let me share. So I said by now you should have an idea of the if, else, and else if statements. Even if it's not all that clear, you should have an idea on how it is being used and the structure. Am I free to continue? You have a question? Hello? Can I continue? You have a question?
You can continue.
Continue.
All right. So the next one, let me copy this.
Lovely. No what's needed.
I'll
chop you off. Chop you off.
Next one is
Assuming
loops.
you left, guys.
Loops. So we use loops for repetition. So like you want to type, you want to print, hold on, let me put, I've forgotten. Let me put it in our main method, our main function. So loop is for repetition. If you want to repeat, a block of code, you can use loop for it. Like if, for instance, let's print, hold on. I want to print, I am Jamil. So let's say we want to print this 100 times. Yeah, we can use some shortcuts to keep printing it, print, keep typing it. But it's even going to take us time. But there's an easier way for this. Instead of just typing print every time, we use loops. Loop is used to run a block of code for a specified amount of time. So for instance, let's say we want var num1 is equals to, let's say, 10. Now, why is it? Oh, num1 is already defined. Let's use another variable name, loop num. So let me go back. This error message that is giving me, the name num1 is already defined. I mentioned before that if you have already declared the variable with a name, you cannot declare it again. You see, you have already declared num1 here. We cannot declare it again. What we can just do is to change the value of num1 if it's using var. So, but we want to, Celine, you are disturbing us. So let's name the variable loop num. And I mentioned again, when we were talking about variables, in that programming language, we use the camel case. So you can see like a camel, it starts with a lowercase. Then in the next word, you start with the uppercase character. Here you can see loop num. So this is just, you can type this with me. I will explain. It's going to look like magic. So if you've typed this, hold on, let's comment this one out because we don't need this yet. Again, so we're in loops now. So if you've typed this, you can just run. So you can see, hold on, I'm having issues with this thing. Please give me a moment. I'm having issue with my Visual Studio. What's wrong with this thing? All right, if we print this, it's going to run. I am jam 10 times. So you can see. If you count it, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So let me break the code down for you. So what I did here was we declared a variable called loop num, and we set the value to be 10, right? So now we are now saying in the for loop, I told you loops is used to repeat a block of code. So we are saying for var, we are declaring another variable here. Here, we are declaring another variable. It's the same thing as here, you can see. If you can check the signature, it's the same thing. We are using the var keyword. We are setting the variable name, that's the identifier. We are using the equals to sign, is used to assign an assignment operator, and then we are setting the value. Here you can see. So it's having the same signature as here. So in the for loop, what we do first is we create another variable. Like this is the starting point of the loop. Another variable, 0, we are setting it to 0. So we terminated it. You can see we are using the semicolon. It's used to terminate a statement that this is the end of the statement. You see? And then another statement, we are saying as long as I, this is I. You know, we created a variable I. And now saying as long as I, we can adjust as well, name it something else, but we have to use the same name here and here. Why? I'll show you. And now saying as long as I, you know, I is 0. We're saying as long as I is less than loop num. This is loop num 10. We can just say 10 here. It's the same thing. But because we created a variable called loop num and it's 10, we are saying as long as I is less than loop num. So I is 0 here. We are saying as long as 0 is less than 10. Now, increment I. This is the same thing as saying I is equals to I plus 1. Like I mentioned that day, you can even do this. I is equals to I plus or equals to 1. If you remember when I showed you assignment operators that day, that I said you can use this plus equal to, minus equal to, multiplication equal to the modulo and all that. So you can see,
Yes.
same thing as saying I, we are just incrementing I with 1. We can use this, we can even use this. If you want to increment to 1, you should use this one because just to save you some seconds of typing. So this is just to increment I by 1. So every time in the loop I is going to increment to plus 1. We are adding 1 to it. So now we're saying for var I is equals to 0. So I is starting from 0. And now saying as long as 0 is less than 7. So you see, as long as 0 is less than 10, I mean rather 0 is less than 10, then increment I. But before increment, we are printing this, we'll print this statement. It's not going to exit out of the loop, it's going to go back again. It goes back, it checks. By this time, I is now 1. If you can remember, we said here we're incrementing I plus plus. Hold on. By this time, after the first loop, you know I is starting from 0. We're checking if 0 is less than 10. We are incrementing I. So I will now be 1 now. But we are printing this. It will print the first one. I am jamming. It will go back again. Checks. Now I is 1. It's now checking. Is I that is 1 still less than 7? Yes. It increments. Now I turns to 2. Then it prints again. Prints I am jamming again. Goes back again. I is now 2, but it's still less than 10. Now increments I. Now I will be 3. It prints this. It does that same thing until now I is, let's say I is 6. Sorry, I is 9. It checks. Now I is 9. It prints I am jamming again. Goes back into that loop. Now it prints it already. You know, we have already incremented I to 10. Now I will be 10 now. It checks. Is 10 less than loop num? That is 10. Now I is 10. Now checking is I is less than 10. But definitely, we have 10 here. We have 10 here. They are equal. I is not 10 is not less than 10. They are equal. So when it gets to this terminating statement, 10 less than 10, it's going to now exit out of that loop. That's when the loop is done. So it does that until it meets this expression. If you can follow, until it gets to 10, until I is now 10, that's when it stops running. If we say, let's say, if we say 3 here, it's only going to print I am jamming 3 times. If we can follow again, it checks again, I is 0, I is 0, 0 less than loop num, it continues, increments I is now 1, but it prints I am jamming, goes back again, I is 1, checks 1 is less than loop num, no, I'm sorry, yes, it's still less than loop num, increments I, now I is 2, prints I am jamming, goes back again, 3 is not less than loop num. So when it gets to that point where it says 3 is not less than loop num, then now it exits this loop statement. If it does not get to that point, it will not exit, it will keep running. Even if we said 1000 here, so it will keep running until it gets to 1000. For instance, let me not print I am jamming, let's just print what I is so you can follow. Let's print what I is. Hold on, I set it to 1000, so you can see it's printing from 0 to 999. You can scroll all the way to the top, so you can see it's printing from 0. I wanted to see 3. So it's starting from 0, 0, 1, 2, because I is 0 here, so it's printing 0. But if we said, if we start from 1, it's going to print only, it's going to print 1, 2. It's only going to print only 1, 2, because it checks if I now is 1.
Sorry.
It's checking if 1 is less than 3. If checking is 1 is less than 3. No, it's not less than 3. Then it increments I. Now I is 2. Now it prints I. But it checks, it prints it prints I 1. It goes again. Now I is 2 because we have incremented to 2. It checks if 2 is less than loop num. Now it prints. Sorry, hold on. Wow.
Sorry.
All right. I'm sorry about that.
You just need to go and take water.
Yeah, I'm taking water. Thank you. Please give me a moment. Let's continue. So now it's going to run for as long as this statement is true. It's going to keep running. But you have to be careful though. You have to be careful because this statement must eventually evaluate to false. Let me come back. This statement here must eventually evaluate to false. For instance, here, let me say if I is greater than loop num. Let's follow this. Let's follow this clinically. We are checking now. I is 1. Sorry, let's start from 0 again. I is 1. I is 0. Now, not checking is 0 greater than loop num. Is 0 greater than loop num? Loop num is 3. Is 0 greater than loop num? No. So it increments I. So now I will be 1. It will print I. It will print 0. It will print 1. Goes again. Check. Now let's say I is 1. Check if it's 1 greater than loop num. No. It increments again. Prints 2. Checks again. I. Is I greater than loop num? No. So it will keep checking until it sees that I is greater than loop num. But it's not going to, this expression will never return false. Sorry, it will never return true. It will always be false. Keep running, keep running, keep running. So you can see, let me print it out for you to see. This expression is going to keep running. Hold on. If you're using for loop, you have to be careful. Hold on, my VS Code is hanging. Give me a moment. Just give me a moment. Why is this not running? So what I was saying is that if this expression here, if it never terminates, it will keep running forever and ever until you come to your terminal and press Ctrl C, because Ctrl C is used to stop any processes running on your terminal. So it will keep running. So every time you want to use a for loop, you have to be careful. You have to write down the expression. You have to follow it along. Now we are saying I is 0. We want to check if I is less than loop num. Now increment I. I is less than loop num. Yes, this is true. It increments I. Now I will turn to 1. It prints what I is. Goes again. Now I is 1. Remember, is I less than loop num? It prints what I is. Then until it gets to this final value where I is no more less than loop num. They can get until it gets to that value where I is not less than loop num anymore. So that is the point when I is 3. You know, when I is now 3 and loop num is 3. That means 3 is not less than 3. Then it exits the loop, the for loop, and then it prints and then it continues with the code. But if it does not meet that expression, to keep running anything inside this for loop, to keep running it over and over and over and over again until this expression is done. So what we can use loop for, we can use to print some values. So let's say as long as I is less than 100, it will keep printing 0 to 100. So instead of us writing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we can just use the for loop to print whatever we want or to run whatever we want. So let's give it a moment. Let it run. See, so it's printing from 0, but it stops at 99. Because, but if you count it, it's starting from 0. That's why it's stopping at 99. But if you had said it should start from 1, then we have to say I is less than or equal to 100. So it's starting from 1 until I is less than or equal to 100. Then it will print 1 to 100. You can see it's printing from 1 down to 100. So that's what we use. We use a for loop, this kind of for loop. We have other ways of using loops, but this one is a conventional way. You will see this in other programming languages like JavaScript or C++ and all that. They share this same syntax. The only difference is this var keyword might be different in other programming languages. But just to have this one at the back of your mind, you can practice after this session. You will meet stuff like this a lot. This is used to loop, to repeat some blocks of code. We use the for loop. We have other loop statements. This is the first one, the for loop. We have while loop. So while we use, let me tell you the difference between while and for. You can use either in any scenario, but they have their own special use cases. If you are using for, that means you know when you want to terminate the expression, because we know we want this expression to stop when we get to this value, this 100. So when we get to 100, stop running the code. That's what we wrote here. But when we want to use while, that means we don't know yet. We don't know when the expression will stop. Now, that's when we use while. So we use while until something happens that will trigger the expression to definitely be false. So for instance, I wanted to show you what what do they call it? Infinite loop. Yeah, what an infinite loop is. You can easily run into an infinite loop using the while loop. For instance, if you say while true, print, let's say print hello. So let me just give you a disclaimer. If you run this code, let's comment this one out. If you run this code, if you check your terminal, it will keep printing hello forever. Hold on, let's run it first. Might even crash your distance. So you can see it's not stopping. If you check my terminal, it's not stopping. It keeps printing hello because we are saying while true. So it will always be true. True will always be true. So it will keep printing hello, hello, hello forever and ever until I stop my terminal and say Control C to terminate it. So it will keep printing. You have to be careful not to use an infinite loop like this. Hold on. Let me clear my terminal. So just like for loop or if statement, this while loop expects a Boolean value. You know, when we talked about if statement, we said it expects